Now, before you all grab your pitchforks and storm into the comments section over the title of the video alone, let me just say that of course racism is bad. I wouldn't make a 10-minute video defending something so obviously terrible. Generations have been ruined because of racism, and lives are still getting destroyed by it. However, I don't think we should be painting racism as entirely evil, because, well, there's a reason why people are racist. And that's not because people want to be bad, it's because there are objective benefits to being racist. And I don't think we should be discrediting these benefits with all this virtue signaling bullshit, because we are seriously reaching a low point in history without racism. A lot of people don't know this, but racism is actually the natural state for a lot of people, and has been for most of history. By forming exclusive groups, people are able to be amongst like-minded individuals, and the people infight significantly less. This is because people who think the same don't often come into conflict. Grouping together also provides a sense of pride. I mean, think about it. If you're surrounded by people like you, that think like you, and most importantly look like you, then you feel like you belong. That's a good feeling. Segregation is an objective good in its utility because it leads to the formation of ethnostates, and ethnostates are historically proven to last longer than states that embrace polyethnicity. I mean, look at China. They have over 5,000 years of history because they are discriminatory and wary of other races, while also cooperating with their own. As such, the Chinese have been able to survive for as long as they have. China is an ethnostate, and referring to what I said earlier, an ethnostate with a racist population provides a sense of national pride and identity, and thus prevents infighting and strengthens the country. When you work, create, and fight, you are doing so for the betterment of the people you care about, your own people, a distinct race. On a side note, this is why Kurdistan should not be a real country. It doesn't deserve to be one. Kurds say they need independence, but the difference between the Kurds and the Turks is entirely cultural and not racially related at all. If the Kurds were to just accept their racial disposition, then they would be a united state. Living within an ethnostate creates an us versus them mentality, and it's been proven time and time again that having a defined, tangible enemy that is perceived to be pure evil unifies a people. By comparison, blurring the lines of morality with all this not all black people talk just weakens everyone's resolve. Take Osama bin Laden in the War on Terror, for example. People rallied behind the tangible goal of killing Osama bin Laden, and everything was great. But once he was gone, suddenly the enemy was terrorism itself. Not any one group or person. It could have been anyone. What were we supposed to do then? It's not like we can go and just shoot terrorism dead. This is why we need people like Osama bin Laden, and groups like Muslims, and why we need to hate them. The politically correct may preach that globalization is the only way things should be, but a divided world gives states and people true independence, and thus responsibility for our own mistakes and development. I know I personally feel that certain races contribute significantly less than others to our culture, such as Mexicans and Indians, and the best way to avoid this is simply to divide people by race. Suddenly, there would be no more races riding on the achievements of others, or even the mere perception that some group was leeching off of our own hard work. Our achievements can be credited only to ourselves. Racism puts people in check. When you're constantly critical of another race's actions, you're going to call them out on it at any chance you can get. This is far preferable to the alternative of being blindly accepting of all of a race's mistakes, something we do so much in today's political climate. This can be seen with the whole COVID-19 epidemic. The virus was caused by China. There's no way around that. It started in China because some Chinese idiot ate a bat, and it spread because the Chinese government was unwilling to be honest about the severity of the virus. In spite of this, people are defending China and shunning away anyone calling the virus the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus. The virus came from China, and it's somehow wrong to call the Chinese out for it? Blind acceptance and aid of other countries is actively screwing us over. I mean, Africa is leeching resources from the first world all because some liberal politician sees that their skin color is dark and takes pity on them. So they funnel food and water to them, instead of the hardworking men, women, and children in their own country. Shouldn't Africa be left to their own devices to figure it out for themselves? Similarly, Syria is pouring rapists and murderers into Europe, and people are just making the gates into Europe even wider to accommodate them. What a surprise, the rapists and murderers they willingly let into their country raped and murdered people. Oh, but they can't do anything else because they don't have the same rights as us. Oh, they're like this because of nurture, they say as they continue to let these primates fuck our countries. Maybe, if they were told to stay in their own shitholes, they'd find that they have the same rights as in their own country, and they'd figure out that the only way to find a better life is to start by bettering their own land and not by running away from it. In my opinion, the worst offender of all is India. They're pumping CO2 into the world like it's a competition. They're third in the world in terms of CO2 emissions. You know why? It's because they have a culture practically based entirely around being unhygienic. They eat shit and drink piss for breakfast, and they toss their mountains of trash and shit into the ocean. Take a wild guess as to what happens to the world when a country with this kind of disgusting culture industrializes. But all of these people get a pass with the wave of a hand because they're minorities and they're being marginalized. And don't even get me started on black crime statistics. Admittedly, white people do have their own shortcomings too, though they are less drastic than other races. They've only ruined pizza and Italian carbonara, which weren't too good to begin with, so not much loss there. If you've stuck with me thus far, then I need you to bear with me again, as I realize what I'm about to say may sound bad. Nevertheless, I have to say this. Slavery is good. Every great civilization is built on the shoulders of disposable workforce, and it's even better if this workforce is perceived as having less rights than a regular citizen. And this loops back to my main point, why we need to bring back racism. Racism desensitizes us to slavery. During the golden age of America, slavery was running rampant, and no one batted an eye. And this was because blacks were considered less than human thanks to 3/5 compromise. That compromise let the American people take advantage of them without any adverse psychological effects, giving industry a massive boost and allowing America to develop into the superpower it is today. You know why Trump says make America great again? It's because America used to be great. Used to be great because people used to be racist and own it. People wore racism like a badge of honor. Today we stigmatize racism, and thus America is no longer great again. We need slavery. We need a group of people who are expendable for manual labor. China has been doing this with their own people, and they've become a global superpower from absolutely nothing. Imagine how powerful we could be if we took advantage of minorities and the racially inferior. We need a group of people we can oppress and use, and that shouldn't be people of the same blood. Without a group to take advantage of, the populace becomes discontent due to the unnatural workload, and development stagnates. Okay. I realize I've been going on about the bigger picture for a bit too long, so what about the other side of things? How would being racist affect you, the viewer, positively? Well, to start with, we need to look at the basics of Jungian theory. Now, I don't expect many of you to understand this, as you kinda have to be in the know about this stuff, so I'll make this as simple as I can. Jungian theory expands off of Sigmund Freud's structure of the human psyche, with the id being our basest, most purest form of instinct. Both theories have one thing in common, the idea that our subconscious, the deep, dark, and repressed id, has a concrete effect on our conscious actions. Jung takes this one step further, saying that in order to complete ourselves, we must accept this subconscious manifestation of ours, not to reject it. The yin completes the yang, just as racism completes the soul. Don't lie to yourself neither. Being racist feels good. You're repressing your inner hatred by refusing to be racist, by refusing to generalize a race into one offensive caricature. But really, deep in your subconscious, you know that that's what they really are. You can't live without strife nor negativity. You need those elements of human life to balance yourself. Accept it. Racism is chaos, and our minds are just as chaotic as it if we condemn racism deep down. The world that the left strives for is a non-existent realm of perfect euphoria, something that literally cannot exist. And there is only one way it can exist, and let me tell you, it can only exist if we are not in it. I really hate that there's such a social stigma against being racist because it served us so well before and yet we've cast it aside. It might sound like I've said some pretty hateful things, but I think by this point you should be seeing my point. So, yeah, that's just my 2 cents on racism. Here's to hoping this video gains some traction and actually changes something. Anyway, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. I've got lots more to say. Leave a comment too if you think you have something interesting to say. Please leave trolling out, you're not funny and we really don't need it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Achilles Argyle, signing off.